Hello there, and welcome to another edition of the HuskerOnline Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washit. Good to be back home after not having a home game in Lincoln for a month. Nebraska will take on UCLA Saturday, 2:30 on the Big Ten Network. We're going to get you ready for that here on this week's show. But before we get into that, we are brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Your home, our care. Get accessible and personalized in-person care in the comfort of your home. And, you know, when you talk about the services they provide, they can do a lot of things, helping you with loved ones in your life, simple tasks like picking up prescriptions, meal cooking, taking you to a doctor's appointment. They are there to provide the help you need. And, you know, it might be something too where you want to reach out to StayHome.Care just to, you know, find out more about their services, because there is going to be a time in your life you might need this service, whether it's an uncle, a brother, a sister, a parent. So check them out at their website at StayHome.Care. That's StayHome.Care. Thanks again. They are our title sponsor here of the Husker Online Show. Okay, let's get into what we saw, guys, at Ohio State. And now coming in, Nebraska's got a chance to get to bowl eligibility for the first time since 2016 here against UCLA. I think the question on all our minds, though, is can this same team that we saw in Columbus show up now here in the month of November?
Yeah, because if it does, they'll probably go 4-0. I mean, now that's expecting a lot, but if they play that way, I mean, it's feasible. Of course, if they play like they did against Indiana, 0-4 is feasible. That's kind of part of the fun. You really don't know, but they're not going to play a ranked team down the stretch. So, I mean, they were awfully good at Ohio State.
Yeah, I think the challenge is, continuing to not just play at that level, but bring the same mindset that they had throughout all of last week. Like, that's probably the most impressive thing for me about that performance was how Matt Rule and his staff got that team to flush that disaster in Bloomington and make it clear to them that what they showed in that game was not who this team was, and got them, ready to go, dialed in, locked in a situation where a lot of other teams might have quit. I mean, you go and lose by 49 points on national television, weaker locker rooms don't survive that. But I think it's a credit to this coaching staff and a credit to the player leadership on this team to rally the troops in a very difficult time and go up against an even more daunting task to go to Ohio State, who had all the incentive of the world to blow the doors off you, and play like that, to come within multiple plays of winning that game.
Yeah, I don't think people realize how historical that upset would have been if Nebraska pulled it off. They were the largest point spread underdog in any game in college football, Power 4, Group of 5, you name it. And they were a play away from doing it. I mean, it would have probably been the biggest upset in Nebraska since the 1959 Oklahoma game, which Nebraska at that time, I believe, snapped a 74-game conference win streak the Sooners had in the Big Eight, and they had beaten Nebraska 17 years in a row. Well, Ohio State's beaten Nebraska a lot of times in a row. They've dominated this conference. Ryan Day has never had a loss like that in his career in the Big Ten.
No, I mean, he's 61-9.
And all of those losses are to Michigan, Penn State, in the top teams.
Yeah.
Like they don't lose bad games.
Yeah. And Nebraska had them on the ropes. I don't know what to say about Ohio State. They only targeted Jeremiah Smith twice in the second half, which is odd. The
pressure.
Yeah. They only targeted Smith and Emeka Egbuka 8 times total. So Nebraska got them out of what they do best. And that, and Ohio State didn't have the ball that much in the second half. Ohio State's odd to me. They only ran the ball for 64 yards. That team, I'll tell you one thing right now. It's not scheme that kept them from running the ball. And it's not running backs that kept them from running the ball. They got 2 great running backs. It's the offensive line in Nebraska. And Nebraska did a great job of disruption up front.
Yeah, you just know what you see, and that was obviously the first time I got to watch really in depth a lot of Ohio State in person. And I'm not impressed with Will Howard. Like, I don't know how much of an upgrade he was compared to their previous quarterback situation, whether it was McCord or even if Raiola would have stuck around there. Like, I don't know if he's better than those guys. And then that offensive line right now, I know they were beat up, but Nebraska dominated. Their defensive line dominated that game. Jamari Butler had maybe his best game of the season. Ty Robinson got back on track. Nash Hutmacher was disruptive. And I think that is a big reason why you talked about those issues in the second half, especially that Ohio State had. Nebraska's defense had a lot to do with that. The way that they controlled the line, especially down the stretch, I think threw Ohio State off, and they needed Will Howard to make plays, and he couldn't make them.
You're listening here to the Husker Online Show, brought to you by StayHome.Care. Now, moving forward to UCLA, I mean, these games are all big, but to me, just getting to bowl eligibility on the first Saturday in November, as small of a step as that is for a lot of programs, to me, it would be a huge step for Nebraska. I mean, we have kids in this state that have not seen Nebraska make a bowl game in 8 years.
Yeah, I don't think you can make too big of a deal of it. They need the practices. We forgot about that part, it seems like, around here.
Well, kids need to see Nebraska win to keep this program to what it is.
That too. Yeah.
I mean, 8 straight years of no bowls, losing records. I mean, that eventually is going to pay a price with your fan base and your future. So this month is so important, but this game is so important because you got a 2-5 team coming into Lincoln that's played a lot of people close. They've played a tougher schedule than Nebraska. The updated FPI rankings on ESPN now have Nebraska with the 11th toughest schedule in the country. UCLA, though, has played the toughest schedule in the Big Ten Conference. So their 2-5 record is a little deceiving because of the schedule they've played.
It is.
And I think for Nebraska's sake, the getting that weight off their shoulders of the bowlless streak is important, but I think especially so for the veteran leaders on that team. The Ty Robinsons, the Giffords, the guys that have been playing a lot of football here and have never been rewarded with postseason play. Like, how much does just not having to worry about that change their approach against Wisconsin, against Iowa? Those types of games where in every year of their career, they've had to try to go win those games to keep their postseason hopes alive. Now they don't have. They're just padding the stats a little bit on that one. So I think that in itself, just to get that out of the way for the team, but then specifically for those older guys that have experienced nothing but losing over the course of their career, would be invaluable just to go into those late games down the stretch with a different mentality. And
it's early in the week, but there is a chance of rain. I still think we're going to see a good crowd. I mean, it's a 2:30 kick on an early, beautiful fall November afternoon.
God, I would think so. I mean, there's so much to play for right now, and Nebraska could be on the verge of a big finish. I did see 70% chance of rain, which
you don't know what that means, though. It could mean rain at 6 a.m.
Mm-hmm.
It could mean rain at 10 o'clock at night. I mean, you just until you get to Saturday, it's really hard to play iPhone meteorologist. and that's what everybody in America thinks they're a meteorologist. You look at your iPhone icon, it's going to rain, but you don't really know like the details of that until we kind of get closer to the game.
I'm an iPhone meteorologist.
You just look at it. You're an expert on the weather because
I hear it on the radio too. So Sean, UCLA is a little, I don't know. I don't want to go down this path of making them sound really good because I get a lot of heat for that. They're not really good. In fact, they're terrible rushing the ball. I mean, their
quarterback's probably their best rushing weapon, Ethan Garbers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean they have good receivers. I know when we did the spring breakdown of UCLA, that was the real strength of them were the receivers that they brought back. And this was a UCLA team, if I'm not mistaken, they beat Boise State in a bowl game last year.
It's possible. And their scores they're not that bad. I mean, they played Indiana closer than Nebraska did. Doesn't mean a lot. UCLA lost 42-13. They played LSU tough. They played Penn State tough. They played Minnesota tough, and they beat Rutgers, and they put 35 points on Rutgers. Nebraska put 14 on them. I just don't. I think it'd be crazy for anybody to overlook UCLA.
Yeah, they beat Boise in the LA Bowl last year, 35-22. So it is possible. You said it. I said they beat. You go, it's possible. Yeah. But they that was a good win. I mean, they're deceiving. I mean, they're a team that is experiencing the transition to the Big Ten. It's not easy, and they've had to do a lot of cross-country trips.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of it. But I mean, the thing is, they don't run the ball well. 60. It's almost. I can't even believe the number. They average 64 yards per game, 64.6, which is last nationally. So they'll have their hands full coming in here against this defense.
Yeah,
all right.
And again, if Nebraska plays up to their potential, that's going to be a really difficult sledding for UCLA's offense.
Oh, God, yes.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk offensive storylines heading into Saturday. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Wasched as we talk offensive storylines for Saturday's 2:30 Nebraska-UCLA game on the Big Ten Network. We're again brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Check them out at their website. Give them a call. They've got great services that they can provide. Simple things like helping the loved ones in your life with tasks that you may not have time to do. And then we're also brought to you by Ellerbrock-Norris. They've been helping Nebraska business owners protect their purpose for over 120 years with risk management solutions built for local businesses. Ellerbrock-Norris partners with you on commercial insurance, group benefits, business exit planning, safety, and more. Start thinking long-term with your business and create a risk management strategy to protect it. Are your employee benefit costs going through the roof? Talk to Ellerbrock. Workplace injuries skyrocketing your workers' compensation costs? Talk to Ellerbrock. Hoping to retire in the next 10 years and sell the business to family, key employees, or even a friendly competitor? Talk to Ellerbrock. Ellerbrock-Norris is helping you protect your purpose, whether it's your business and the employees in it, your life outside of work, or your future retirement goals. Head to Ellerbrock-Norris.com/HuskerOnline today to get your free risk evaluation. Okay, let's get into offensive headlines and storylines for Nebraska going into this UCLA game. I want to start with Dylan Raiola as a runner because we had never seen it. And these weren't designed Adrian Martinez, Jamal Lord, QB draw plays. I mean, these were, you know what, we call a pass play, and they're going to not account for me as a runner, and I'm going to take free yards. And one of those runs, was one of the longest runs we've seen from a Nebraska player all year.
Yeah, he had 3 scrambles on the first series, 3 5-yard scrambles on the first series. I think it was actually the third series, 3 5-yard scrambles. Then on the fourth series, he took off 38 yards, which, we hadn't seen that. And it set up a field goal. And I don't know what Dylan said today because I didn't hear him. I was writing the coordinator stuff. I don't know if it was, I don't know if there's a conscious effort to get him more involved that way or not. Satterfield indicated they hadn't even talked about it. So I don't know what it was, but it was big. And he can run a little bit.
And it was something he did say he always knew that he had that element to his game, and he was actually mad at himself, particularly after one play against Indiana, where it was a 3rd down, and he could have probably just put his head down and run and got the first down. Instead, he tried to throw it. It went incomplete, or I can't remember what the result of the play was. They didn't get the first down, and that kind of stuck with him a little bit.
Did he say that?
Yes, he said that. And so that, I think, probably sparked this mentality where going into it, he was going to run it more. And Sierra Wright actually said, too, that during the week, he could kind of see a performance like the Ohio State game coming because of the way Dylan was just a little more aggressive to take off and run. And just given the issues they're having right now in the passing game, that's such an important thing to just add to the entire offense, where you don't have to completely rely on your running backs to be able to keep drives on schedule. It opens things up, makes teams less aggressive with how they cover, and just kind of makes life as a whole for your offense easier when you have at least a semblance of a threat with a QB run game.
And you get worried about a quarterback taking hits too much, but when you compare Dylan Raiola's physical size to a corner or even a safety hitting him down the field, he's a lot bigger than those guys. So he's smart. Dylan doesn't let himself just take bad hits very often. I mean, you hate to use the Mahomes analogy, but he took the free yards, and you see Patrick Mahomes do the same thing in Chiefs games. When everyone's covering the field, run. And I think that opened up so much more at times for this offense, particularly in the running game when we started to see Dante Dowdell get hot for a moment there in that game.
Yeah, when the teams are in man coverage, backs are turned to the quarterback a lot of the times. That's when you can take off, and that's what he saw. I mean, and yeah, it's sort of like a wrinkle now, and I don't know. He showed he can slide too, which is important. We've seen a quarterback at Nebraska, Chubba Purdy, who had an awkward slide at Michigan, and it took him out of action. So Yeah, Dylan looks like he can do it. And I think it is something it gives defenses something else to think about.
You know what it also does? It negates the run blitzes teams are going after him, where they're sending multiple linebackers in to stuff the run on early downs. Well, if you can still get rushing production, but do it out of a pass look, that kind of changes the ability of the defenses to just go all in to put you in 2nd and 10 with a run blitz.
Yeah, and if, moving forward, I thought the offensive line guys too, they protected well enough in that game for Nebraska. I mean, Ohio State blitzed 14 times, and Raiola was only under pressure on 7 of his dropbacks in that game. So for as, much stuff as we've seen go wrong with injuries at left tackle and some of the personnel moves, you got to give Donovan Raiola credit because he has gotten that line to a pretty good level of play, particularly in pass protection. It was one of their better pass protection games they've had in a while, especially consider the opponent they were going against.
Gunnar Gatula hangs in there really well. I'm really impressed. That's a great thing for the future for Nebraska to be playing a redshirt freshman left tackle and have him. He holds in there really well. And now I thought Ohio State did a good job when there's a couple times it collapsed fast on Dylan. People are sort of overlooking that. When they came a couple times, it was whoa. I mean, it looked like a top 6 unit. Mm-hmm. But generally speaking, Nebraska did a pretty good job protection for sure.
Mm-hmm. And again, that's a big part of this whole operation. That's about the receivers getting off routes. But if Dylan doesn't have any time to sit there and let routes develop, you're really hamstrung with what you can do. And they're forced into those man beaters, which fans have lamented over for the last couple of weeks. So being able to consistently improve your pass protection, I mean, that just opens up everything else.
Now, one thing I'll be interested, guys, on Saturday is when and if Nebraska throws their first screen play and it gets bottled up. Are you anticipating?
Yes. We'll hear some.
Yeah, you might hear that. You might hear that. I would think. It seems like people are fixated on that a little bit. Nebraska Satterfield kind of glossed over it today. They both
chuckled.
Yeah, he laughed when you asked him about it.
Yeah, they both said the same thing, and that is against heavy blitz. That's what you do. That's one thing you do. There's a few things you can do. You can throw an outside screen. You can throw a tunnel screen. I think that was a tunnel screen to Nayor where he about got in. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know exactly, but they're throwing. Obviously, the 2 they threw on the last series is what's at issue with a lot of people, I guess.
You're listening here to the Husker Online show. A couple of other notes on the offense. Thomas Fedoni is having his best stretch that we've seen at Nebraska as a receiver. But then also Ja'Cory Barney, he's had 20 targets in the last 2 games with 15 catches. He converted first downs on 4 receptions last week. So Ja'Cory Barney and Fedoni have been real stories the last 2 weeks.
Especially Fedoni. What was it? 6 for 91 against Indiana. And then he followed it up with 50-some yards of receiving against Ohio State. He's very good. Like Satterfield said Tuesday, very good vertical threat. He gets upfield well. His catch radius is outstanding. He has good hands. He never drops anything, and he's good after the catch. He's starting to play like, a highly rated high school tight end should play. Mm-hmm. Barney has gotten a lot of touches, not a lot of yards. He's not getting over the top. I'd like to see him get over the top a little bit more and turn some of those. Those short shovel passes into longer gains. Barney's good. I mean,
they count for him, though.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. They have to.
He's been a benefactor of that reliance on the screen game, too, where if it's not a running back screen, it's usually a little bubble to Barney that doesn't get much either.
God, he's something else. I mean, he's tougher than hell at that size. They got to get more out of Nayor and Banks. I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to for me. If you can get more out of those guys, it would balance things up quite a bit.
All right, when we come back, we're going to talk defensive storylines going into the UCLA game. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett, as we talk defensive storylines. Again, the Husker Online Show brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They are there for you to help the loved ones in your life with the assistance that they need. It could be anything from getting a ride to a doctor's appointment, cooking, grocery store trips, whatever the assistance you might need, give them a call. Find out all the things they have to offer at StayHome.Care. We're also brought to you by Mando. And if you're not familiar with Mando, Steve Sipple is now. He is, I mean, he is hooked up with Mando products. And Sip, you're a believer in Mando now.
I am. I mean, the soap, I don't know. The soap is incredible. I will say that. It's next level. It smells good. It gives you a tingly feeling. Good God, you really want me to do this?
This is good stuff.
And the stuff is really, the scent is really appealing. I mean, I'm impressed by it.
You got the wipes too, right?
Tell us about those, Sip.
Yes.
Body wipes.
Sean gave me some body wipes. Sean gave me a bag of goods that included body wipes. But it was,
take a quick shower.
Yeah. If you can't get a shower in, the body wipes are obviously
Planet
good.
Fitness parking lot.
Yeah. And the spray deodorant is next level.
All right.
You can use it to spray around your house as a deodorizer.
I'm glad we're going to get you more product, but we got a great deal with Mando right now. If you're not familiar with the product,
it's fine.
They have a Mando starter pack. It comes with a solid stick of deodorant, cream tube deodorant, plus 2 free products of your choice and free shipping. This is already a discounted pack. We're going to take another $5 off. Use the promo code Husker at shopmando.com. The total package is 40% off what you normally would pay with this promo code. So shopmando.com, promo code Husker for an additional $5 off, along with free shipping for the already discounted Mando starter pack. Steve Sipple uses it. You should use it too. Yeah. Check out Mando.
I think you guys said you can get it in stores too.
Target sells it.
Target. Okay.
Yeah, I know for sure Target.
I'm headed to Target.
You're gonna buy some of your own.
Yeah.
You're gonna try to use the promo code at Target, and they're gonna say, "Sorry, we don't honor that."
I can. Yeah. I mean, the promo code's good, but I don't mind going to Target.
All right, let's talk defensive storylines for Nebraska. This game for Tony White has a little bit of juice. He played for UCLA. He nearly got the head coach job at UCLA this offseason. At least was a candidate for that job that Deshaun Foster got. That angle fascinates me a little bit with Tony White just going against his alma mater this week.
Yeah, he'll, and I heard him today talk that down, which he's going to do. He's got a lot on his mind, obviously. Wow, I mean, what a performance at Ohio State. I was blown away by the short yardage stops that they had. I think you would say 4 short yardage, be it 3rd or 4th down. And right away, I mean, if you remember, guys, the game started so badly for Nebraska. They muffed the kickoff. They were, I think, sacked on the first. They got a sack on the first series. They fumbled on the first series. And then Ohio State took the ball, and you're like, okay, here we go. This is just going to be a nightmare. Nope. On 4th and 1, MJ Sherman beat a double team and stopped Trey Henderson. And the defense just during that kind of set the tone for the defense. They gave up the 3 long pass plays, but Ohio State got a season low 64 yards on the ground, a season low 285 total yards, and a season low 21 yards. And if that defense plays like that the next 4 games, it's easy. And the special teams plays fairly well like it did. It's easy to imagine 4-0. If now it's a big if, but if the defense plays like that, 4-0 is in the cards.
I mean, they will have a chance to win every single game on their schedule, and a good chance to win every chance with that type of effort. And that was the difference in the game on Saturday, making Ohio State one-dimensional and making Will Howard have to go out there and win that game. That's the reason the game was as close as it was after that start. And you credit the resilience of the defense, because they looked anything but that against Indiana. They looked like they couldn't stop a high school team with the way they were playing and tackling in that game. I thought everything was better. The push up front was better. They were flying to the football. It wasn't just the improved tackling, but they were gang tackling. They were swarming to the football the way that you saw earlier this season. And that's just a mentality and want to thing for me. And I think that was a part of why last week was such a critical point for them. The fact that they got that back to that defense, again, that's going to be an X factor for them the rest of the way.
This month of November, in some ways, it is identical to what Nebraska faced a year ago. Nebraska was slight favorites in 2 games in November last year. They were a 1-point favorite over Iowa,
Okay.
a 3-point favorite over Michigan State. They were a slight underdog to Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like around a field goal. And then they were an underdog at Wisconsin and like by a touchdown. So when you kind of analyze this Final Four to that Final Four, I think we're going to see similar point spreads for all 4 of these games like a year ago. The difference is Nebraska was a favorite in 2 and lost all 4. They're going to for sure be a favorite probably in 2 of these 4, you would think.
For sure.
I'm assuming the Wisconsin game they'll be a favorite in by a slight margin. The difference, can they get over the hump? Can the defense get off the field? Can Dylan Raiola give them something in these games that they didn't have last November?
Well, what are the other separators? Is the defense as good as it was last year? I'd say so, right? Is it better than it was last year?
I mean, if guys like
McGahee,
McGahee randomly just emerge, that's a positive.
Butler emerging late would be a positive too.
Mm-hmm. And MJ Sherman.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh God, yes. I mean, if Butler and Sherman continue to play that way, I mean, I mentioned Butler because we always talk about Nash and Ty Robinson, Nash and Ty Robinson, Ty Robinson, Nash, Ty Robinson, Nash. Well, if they can get Butler to go with them like he did, he had 5 tackles against Ohio State. He had only his 2nd sack of the season. He had 5.5 last year. He had 3 tackles for loss. That's the best game he's played this year. I know Tony White today said, well, he was playing like that early in the year. No, he really wasn't. He's never.
He may have been. He wasn't on the field for 40+ snaps either. That was
true.
The big difference. He actually stayed on the field, and look what happened. He was a game wrecker.
Yeah,
and he did all of that despite getting held. I mean, there's been clips of him literally being tackled by Ohio State offensive linemen. Like, I 100% agree with you. He is about as much of an X factor on that defense as anyone, because if you can get 3 elite level defensive linemen, everyone else on your defense looks so much better.
Oh my God. Sean, I'm serious. If you get Nash, Ty, and him going,
seriously,
good luck.
And then MJ's playing at a high level, and you can throw him in there as a pass rush off the edge. Look out.
That has been the missing piece, though, Jamari Butler, because when Cam Lenhart hasn't been producing, and then you're playing Carol Jackson and Keona Davis, it's a drop off.
Yeah, there is.
But now those guys in a lesser role with Jamari Butler playing better, all of a sudden MJ Sherman looked the best we've seen him look.
He did. He did look the best.
That's the best I saw him look at Nebraska.
Yeah, and so then you add Bullock, Bullock has tailed off a little bit, but you still have confidence in Bullock. You have a lot of confidence in Bayer.
Singleton.
Oh God, Singleton is another one who played. Now that's as well as I've ever seen.
He had his
Singleton
best game
play.
as a Husker.
Yeah, 10 tackles, and he was. I mean, when he hits, it's a major deal. So yeah, those guys I'd say Singleton and Butler and Sherman were huge in that game. And by the way, I'd almost throw Hartzog into that. Hartzog's pick was huge, and then he made that huge play in kickoff coverage along with Sherman late in the game. They both had critical stops in kickoff coverage. It was a flex, and a flex by some guys. Yeah, you haven't talked about as much as you maybe thought that you would.
What's your concern level about Gifford right now, Isaac Gifford?
Yeah,
he graded out with like a 30-some overall on his PFF.
You just answered the question.
And fans have kind of been lamenting about his struggles. For a guy that's that prominent, just not only as a player but as a leader on that defense, what do you do? Well, yeah, because as we heard from a former quarterbacks coach, performance is leadership. There has to be that part. I'm not overly worried about it. It's a predicament though, because I don't know how you pull him off the field much.
Well, they see receivers though as good as Ohio State all year. Like Will Pauling is good at Wisconsin.
The answer is no.
Iowa does not have receivers like that. Will Pauling is good at Wisconsin. USC has elite receivers, so the USC game is going to be a real test for that back end.
Oh God, yeah, it will be. And Lincoln Riley, as much as they're struggling, is still a great offensive mind.
All right. When we come back, Abby Barmore will join the show. We'll take your questions in the mailbag. You're listening here to the Husker Online Show. And we're back here on the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut, Abby Barmore, taking your questions in the mailbag. Again, we're brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Give them a call. Check them out on their website. Look at all the great services they can provide you. Help the loved ones in your life. We're also brought to you by CHI When you need heart care, know you're in good hands with CHI Health Clinic Heart Institute providers, offering the community's most advanced heart care at CHI Health Nebraska Heart, the region's only dedicated heart hospital, located right here in Lincoln on 91st and Pine Lake Road, just off Highway 2. The experts of CHI Health Nebraska Heart put our heart and soul, plus the latest in cardiac and vascular technologies, into caring for our community. The highly specialized team works closely with you to get you back on your feet after a major heart event or chronic cardiac condition, offering the highest level of care to keep your heart beating strong. Our heart care extends beyond Lincoln 2 with expert cardiovascular care at all of our 14 hospitals and heart experts who live in or travel to over 40 communities across Nebraska, Southwest Iowa, and northern Kansas. Nearly 700,000 people die of heart disease every year. Learn your heart's real age by taking a quiz online at chihealth.com/heart risk. Thank you to CHI Health. Abby, let's get into the mailbag. Where are we going?
Okay, first one. What would you say is the strengths of Nebraska's offense?
Ooh.
I would say the strength still is Dylan Raiola's arm and some of the throws he's able to make that just weren't in this offense before.
A strength of the offense. Yeah, I'd say that. And I would just, in a micro level, I'd say Fedoni. I mean, Fedoni over the middle, free access throws to Fedoni. Fedoni against zone coverage is really good. I think he's getting better. Now I'm getting over my skis a little bit. I think he's probably getting a little better against man. I think Dylan to the tight end is really good.
I'll combine both of those and say Nebraska's, when they actually throw the ball beyond the line of scrimmage over the middle of the field, they've had so much effectiveness there, especially against zone. Like Dylan's PFF rating against zone coverage is through the roof, and his ability to fit passes into tight windows, and then the emergence of over the middle threats like a Thomas Fedoni is probably their most effective aspect of their offense, because they can't work the perimeter, they can't run the ball, and they can't throw screens. So other than that, they got to lean on what works.
I'm surprised you guys didn't say the screen game.
It's going to happen.
I don't know what to say about the screen game.
I mean,
God, they don't. I'll tell you one thing though. Rule and Satterfield, they're unapologetic.
Oh, wait till the first bad screen on Saturday.
Yeah.
I mean, wait.
Boo!
On a 3rd and 8, and they call a screen.
I
And
love
this
the
gets
boo.
Sybil
by the
might
way.
be booing in the press box.
I love the boo. I love the sound of boo.
the boo, and then also the sound of silence in Memorial Stadium, where you can hear like that plane that's flying over, and that's all you can hear. Because it's just like, boy, you got that kind of silence at Ohio State Saturday.
Yeah, you
I
did.
mean, when I walked out there, it was like the.
When Ohio State threw that sideways ball to number 32 late,
Oh.
there were boos.
hey,
We were on the field.
how about Dylan though coming to Sat's defense today? I don't know if you
What?
heard
I
that
didn't hear
part.
that.
He basically said that he's getting too much criticism, and he called it unfair, and that it's on the players. Like he said that Satterfield is calling the plays to make them a more dynamic offense, and the players need to execute them. So
Didn't hear
talk
that.
about a freshman quarterback going to the bat for his OC.
That's a good look.
It is a good look.
That's a good look for Dylan. It's a good look for Dylan in that it's a team-minded look.
Mm-hmm.
And you're thinking about the total operation, not just yourself.
All right, next question.
Okay, next question. What can the Big Ten do to improve their roughing?
Oh, training. I mean, honestly, I think Troy Dannon would. I know he would tell you that. Troy Dannon, the Nebraska AD. I think that there needs to be better just training. I mean, and there's a lot. God, Rule was very eloquent in talking about everything involved in reffing now. Now they got earphones. They're talking to each other
You don't
during
have
the game.
technology being used.
The Rosemont Replay Center.
Yeah, there's a lot. And there's a lot to that discussion.
And it's gotten worse.
Yeah.
It
I
has.
know it's an example
because I
where
think
technology
refs
has
don't
hurt.
trust their instincts, and so they're like almost unsure of themselves when they're making calls because they're worried about it getting corrected or knowing that it will be reviewed and that the replay will get it right.
And I think sometimes they overcompensate when bad calls are made. And you saw the next week, okay, we're going to overcall offensive pass interference.
100.
And Troy Dannon said that was a point of emphasis to call OPIs, because the week before, did Oregon or Ohio State,
I don't know which one it was, the infraction was on, but it was in that game.
a controversial OPI
Yeah.
that was not called.
Right.
And then they decided to call OPIs that weren't OPIs.
Right. Interestingly, Rule yesterday, on Monday, said that those those sideline calls they flagged him on in both cases, the Big Ten apologized and said we shouldn't have called it. He doesn't want to hear those on Sunday. That's what he said. I don't want to hear any more apologies on Sunday. They got an apology this Sunday for the bad spot, the bad first down, the first down that wasn't called a first down.
It's fascinating to hear like how much these guys talk to Tony Petitti and Bill Carollo. I don't,
Bill Carollo.
I don't think like anybody would know that. Like that. No. Those guys on Sunday and even Saturday evenings, their phones have to blow up between ADs and head coaches.
Bill Carolla is the director of officials. He's a key figure in this. And now he always talks to us at Big Ten Media Days, and we generally don't listen. We're doing other things because it's just
you're eating El Toro by that point. Usually.
Yeah, but or thinking about El Toro. But I think this year, you know what? People are going to listen to him and ask questions.
Okay, next one. We already kind of touched on this, but can Marcus Satterfield come back and redeem himself before the season's end? We've had a lot of talk on our message board and Twitter about how fans aren't super thrilled with the offense right now.
I mean, some of it too is can they the receivers. I mean, I think we thought that the receivers would be more difference makers than they added. I mean, I thought Banks and Naor were going to be better than they are, and they have not produced or gotten the separation since the UTEP game, really, where, they're not Trey Palmer or Samori Toure as far as like game breaking plays. Nope. You go back and like watch the Ohio State game from 2021. Samori Toure had a couple of huge plays where he outran Ohio State's defense. They just don't have that. And that makes everything that much harder for a coordinator.
Yeah. And then just how much their inability to block on the perimeter changes for everything for the running backs. And as we mentioned, the screen game, like that position group has really underperformed considering the expected talent we thought we were getting out of them.
Yep. Now, as far as the question goes, that once the perception gets rolling against a coordinator, it's really hard to reverse. It gets the conversation can get pretty odd. But he's gotten support, you mentioned, from Dylan. He's get support from Rule. So I don't know. But as far as the fans coming around, it's hard to reverse that conversation.
Well, or they just move on to the next one. Guess who nobody's talking about this week? Ed Foley.
Yeah. Well, it's because the special teams has come around a little bit.
It started out.
I mean, they muffed an opening kickoff and shanked a punt.
Resulted in no points, though.
But then they came around.
I mean, it didn't affect them at all.
And, when your kicker makes a 54-yarder and a 37-yarder and what was the other one?
47.
Something.
47.
When that happens and the operation's good, and then when you cover kicks the way they did, there was a redemption in that game.
All right, final question.
What stadium has or had the best food for the press, and what was it?
I will say the one that sticks out to me is Northwestern used to hire out a local barbecue company to cater
You're incredible.
The meal. And I don't know if it was at least twice they did this. And they've changed it up because one time I went to Northwestern and they brought us like a Whole Foods box of fruit and berries that
during
COVID.
It was really odd.
It was bizarre.
It was bizarre.
Cheese and crackers and
weird kind of like
a little charcuterie board.
Pretty much. But the barbecue was elite. And this is one's not even fair, but the Big 12 title games at the Cowboys Stadium, I mean, it was like you were eating at like a Ritz-Carlton restaurant.
Like at Jerry Jones's house.
Yeah.
For brunch on Sunday. It was, Imagine that.
What about you, Sid?
What's that?
What about you? Got one?
I mean, no, I don't. You know what? My answer to this is I don't commit that sort of thing to memory. I just eat the food. I will say this year, God, Abby, don't kill me for this. This year's been awful. Purdue,
rough sledding. Indiana,
it was not edible, the pulled pork. I couldn't eat it.
They did have French toast donuts, though, that were phenomenal.
Parlor donuts. Okay, I'll say that, Abby. They had these boxes of there were rolls more than donuts, and they're from a company called Parlor, which must be local. And I had 3. I didn't tell you guys.
Oh God.
Yeah, I had
3. How many?
I
Okay, at Ohio State, they had a McFlurry bar, and I think you had 3 or 4.
I had 3 of those.
The smoothies or the coffees?
I had 1 coffee and 2 smoothies. It did a number on my stomach.
Yeah.
But the parlor, so I can say the parlor rolls at Indiana were a highlight.
I don't know if it's the best, but it's by far the most memorable is Penn State.
Oh,
Because you go there and it's the most random, eclectic potluck.
It was like a church picnic.
Yes, you have like a crock pot full of tamales next to fettuccine, next to pulled pork sliders,
full rib slabs,
ribs,
Ooh.
pies of all sorts of
Full
variety,
apple
like a
pies.
cake, like a full-blown cake, and then like a big tub of ice cream from their dairy store. Like, it's so random that no matter what you're hungry for, there will be something that fits what you're looking
That's true.
for. And again, like there's no theme or plan behind it. It's just basically everybody brings something and we'll set it up in the media room. That like forever, like when I think of just wild pregame meals, Penn State's.
Well, they cook it there. I don't think people are bringing that.
I don't know. I just like the idea of everybody, all the staffers
Potluck.
showing up.
I don't think
With a
like
crock pot.
by like
Potluck.
health code they would be allowed to like let you bring your own food and
know.
serve it.
But I like the visualization of everybody, just
Quick,
their grandma showing up, setting up a bunch of folding tables.
quick shout out to Nebraska though. I'm always happy with Nebraska's spread. Always.
Iowa has a good one actually.
They do.
Iowa's is
Hey,
surprisingly good.
Their Black Friday, like turkey and mashed potatoes,
Oh,
and
God,
all that sort of
yes.
stuff. It's good.
Comforting.
It's good.
Yeah, it's up like places like Colorado and Miami. They didn't even have food.
Colorado not.
No, and you just had to go to the concession stand and figure out something.
That's right. That's right.
Miami didn't have anything.
I give bonus points to schools that serve post-game beer, though.
Illinois,
Co-
Texas Tech, Washington,
Colorado did that. too.
Colorado.
That's amazing. I'm going to defend Colorado a little bit. They give you a coupon that you can go down and use at the concessions. And I had a burrito and watched the Nebraska kid literally.
You
get
got a burrito.
assaulted.
I tried to get a burrito. They told me no, and I had to get some like wet hot dog.
I
Like
got
a
a
Joey
burrito.
Chestnut hot dog.
I got a burrito,
Disgusting.
and I ate the burrito as I watched the Nebraska fan get assaulted
Yeah.
outside the stadium.
Colorado's amenities and their setup not up to date. It's pretty. I mean, you go in that field house, it's pretty archaic in there.
It is. They're 6-2.
They don't even have a women's restroom in their press
Yeah.
box.
Ooh, that's odd. Yeah, and it's odd, properly odd, because there's women and men.
And they go in. Yeah, women go in there.
Oh yeah, I was in the bathroom with Gary Barnett and a woman just walked in and
Yep. And the sink is right by the urinal too, so it can get a little awkward in there.
he made a joke. He's like, "Yeah, well, we're not going to pass the OSHA test of these bathrooms here." All right.
That got interesting. Good job. man.
Okay, well,
Thank
when we
you.
come back, let's talk Big Ten games. You're listening to the Husker Online Show. Final segment here of the Husker Online Show. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, Robin Washut. Before we get into the Big Ten games, again, we're brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Your home, our care. Get accessible and personalized in-person care in the comfort of your home. Give them a call. It's never too early to find out about the services they offer because there could be a loved one in your life, a brother, a sister, a parent, a close friend that might need some assistance, and you want to make sure you have all the things there that can help them when that day might come. Check them out at their website at StayHome.Care. Thanks again to StayHome.Care. Give them a call at 402-205-2233. StayHome.Care, the title sponsor here of the Husker Online Show. Let's get into the Big Ten games. Obviously, Nebraska, 21-17. The notable thing in that game, guys, is the ratings just came out.
Okay.
Nearly 6 million was the rating. It was just under 6. It peaked out at 9.5 million viewers.
Yeah, Ohio, two monsters playing, two monster programs. So, and a good game.
Yeah.
And a good game in the second half.
But Indiana, for real, 31-17 without Curtis Rourke. They're 8-0. They beat Washington. College game day was there. Lee Corso got to come back to Bloomington. Oregon rolls Illinois 38-9. The Illini now 6-2 with just 2 losses to undefeated teams. That's it. Minnesota, we said this is a big game for both these teams. 48-23 winners over Maryland. Iowa makes a quarterback change. Brendan Sullivan comes in after a pick 6 by McNamara, and they win 40-14. Sullivan beats his former team that kind of kicked him to the curb after, and he went in the portal and goes to Iowa. Michigan, 24-17 winners over Michigan State. Penn State in the night game beats Wisconsin 28-13. And then the World Series post-game Friday night, you had USC 42, Rutgers 20.
Huge win for Penn State. without Aller in the second half, without Drew Aller in the second half. Now, here's what I'm going to ask you guys right now. Okay. Oregon is clearly the best team in the Big Ten right now and probably will stay that way. Okay. Rank 2, 3, and 4. Rank 2, 3, and 4 in the Big Ten for me. Go.
Penn State,
Okay.
Ohio State, Indiana.
Whoa. Indiana 4.
Who'd you put?
I'd go Indiana 2, Penn State 3.
See,
Ohio
I'm leaning
State
more
4.
towards yours. So, like, I'd put Indiana over Penn State for sure. Like, I'm not impressed with Penn State right now. I mean, that was a huge win for them. I'm not gonna Wisconsin was as hottest team in the conference, and they went into Madison and won by 2 touchdowns. Like, that's notable. That's by far their biggest win of the season. But man, Indiana is just demolishing everyone they play. Like, that's a real thing that's happening there. And with Ohio State kind of struggling, Penn State's gone through their lulls. I'm putting Indiana 2.
Okay, here's the question. Would you guys slot Ohio State 4?
No, 3.
Well,
3.
if Indiana somehow beats Ohio State.
Okay, now here's the thing, guys. This is what you got to understand. Ohio State goes to Penn State on Saturday, 11 a.m. Now, that's where you find out if Ohio State might be 4.
Yeah, that'll be my 3-4 game.
Yeah.
We'll learn that. But right now, I'm sticking with Ohio State.
Do you guys think Ohio State's going to go there and run the ball on Penn State? I'd be really
Maybe.
surprised.
And the left tackle is out for Ohio State.
And I watched Penn State, Wisconsin. Penn State, all you have to do is watch for 2 minutes and watch their D-line, and you'll be like, oh, boy. That's what it should look like.
And it's going to be a hornet's nest in State College.
God. At 11 a.m., though, Sean.
But could Ohio State lose this game? And then maybe Indiana knocks them off, and then they're out of the playoff.
Right. I don't know.
And then Ryan Day would be fired.
Yes.
I'm picking Penn State to win this game, which means nothing because my picks are terrible this year. But I don't think Ohio State can go there and run the ball. They haven't run the ball well for 6 quarters.
And can they protect?
Good question.
Yeah, they couldn't
Good
block
question.
Amari Butler.
How do you pick Ohio State to win at Penn State?
It's going to be a lower scoring game.
I think just because they have the better talent. I think they have more defensive talent than Penn State does.
All right, this week, guys, no Friday night games. The World Series is on Friday night. Tentatively, there's a game scheduled on Friday, so there's no Friday night football. But you get Minnesota at Illinois.
Favored.
How about that? How is Minnesota a favorite? How is that? What am I missing here, guys?
Illinois is a little banged up,
but it's in Champaign.
Still weird. Yeah, it's weird.
I'm picking Illinois.
I would too. Sean, before you pick them, make sure you check their injury situation. They're beat up.
Northwestern is a 1-point favorite at Purdue. Ohio State is a 3.5-point favorite at Penn State. Indiana is only a 7.5-point favorite on the road at Michigan State. Is Curtis Rourke going to come back, though? That's the question. Is he back this week? We'll find out. Oregon and Michigan, kind of the helmet game of the week in the Big Ten, but the spread is Oregon by 15 in the Big House. I mean, when is the last time in the Big House, that Michigan's been a 15-point dog?
Been a while.
Because Texas was not that big. I mean, Texas was like 7.5.
It's a legit spread because Michigan they won't be able to generate much offense in that game.
And they're not going to get to Gabriel.
I don't know, but I just know Michigan's not going to. Can Michigan score 20 points in that game? I doubt it.
Nebraska is minus 6.5 on UCLA, and I'm surprised that number is not higher. But I think a lot of it is because Nebraska has proven it can't score. I mean, but I look at Nebraska as more a 9 to 10 point favorite, but the inconsistency of their offense has that number down to 6.5.
Yeah, it was like 9.5, 10 when it opened, and the number quickly dropped over the next couple of days. So I wonder how much of that is just, again, the money. People thinking Nebraska's offense is terrible. They're not going to score enough to win by 10. So maybe that'll correct itself as we go. But I'd say Nebraska's at least a touchdown favorite.
Yeah. SIP USC at Washington. The Trojans are only a 2.5-point favorite. That's a big game.
God, hard to pick.
Because it will have a lot of meaning for when Nebraska goes out there. Because if USC keeps losing, that Coliseum gets emptier each week.
Yeah, it won't be, no matter what happens in this game, it won't be a very good crowd for USC. USC just is what it is. They're just so small up front on defense. I don't know how. Well, I think Washington can run the ball on them. Anybody can run the ball on USC pretty much. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to pick that game. It's a pick 'em.
What's
the spread on that?
2.5 for
Yeah,
USC.
it's a pick 'em. That's what that.
One thing I've learned at the portal, it's hard just to buy a defense. Like in USC went out and bought a bunch of players.
And I've said it a few times. They struck out up front. They went and tried to find guys, big hosses, bigs, and didn't get it done. They struck out. And look at their D line, how small it is. Small.
And then finally, a big one, Wisconsin at Iowa. The Hawkeyes are a 3-point favorite. That's a night game in
Huge
Kinnick.
game.
I mean,
Monster.
I like Iowa at home at night, though.
Me too.
Monster rivalry game.
Kinnick at night, and we're going to find out. We'll be there at night. I think that's a tough place to play at
What
night.
time's the Nebraska game?
6:30 in Iowa City this year.
Yeah.
We're staying overnight both nights this
Ooh,
year.
that's rough. I forgot that was a night kickoff for Nebraska. That's rough.
Last time we were in Iowa City, remember we drove back after the game.
Yeah. We had a press conference.
It wasn't a press conference,
Or
but
there
Matt
was
Rule,
news to break.
Matt Rule
Yeah.
was on College Game Day announcing he
right.
took the
Yeah.
Nebraska job.
That's
Yep.
how it went.
Yep. FaceTiming from his summer home.
Didn't they announce it? Didn't Nebraska announce it right before he went on TV?
Yes.
Isn't that how it went?
Yeah. And we were back.
Yeah, we were back.
It was a busy day, but yeah, should be a little different. But guys, big one Saturday, Nebraska trying to get bowl eligibility, 2:30 on the Big Ten Network. We will be back for Husker Online post-game live, probably 8 to 8:30 start time in that range is my guess.
It's a huge. This is a huge game in my opinion. I mean, just
exercise some demons on
yeah,
Saturday.
and to get it done with 3 games to go, it changes the tenor of those games.
No doubt about it.
Huge. It's just to me, this is a monster game.
Just to kind of break through a barricade.
Yeah, for the program.
8 years.
Yeah, for the program, this is big. I'm not saying it's a big national game. People don't care outside.
No, outside of this program, it's inconsequential.
I'm just saying within our little world, this is a monster game.
Think about this, though. Kids in this state have gone to school from 1st grade to 8th grade and have not seen Nebraska go to a bowl game.
Dylan Raiola, their starting quarterback, was 10 years old the last time Nebraska played in a bowl game.
I mean, think about how long of a period of your life 1st grade to 8th grade was at that time. And you experienced a lot of your life then.
And then it's fun. It's fun because if they get 6 wins, you're in a certain bowl. But you can raise your stock in those last 3
All of a sudden, those bowl projections become a lot more
and
fun.
you can
when
be
they come
slotted
out.
up. Nebraska can be chosen over. If they got to 7 wins, they can be selected over an 8-win team.
And
You're allowed to drop down 1 win. So Nebraska will be a hot commodity if they can get this win. But let's not talk about it. Let's not jinx.
Hey, don't jinx.
All right. Thanks again for joining us. For Abby Barmore, Steve Sipple, Robin Washett. Again, we'll be back here for Husker Online Postgame Live after Nebraska UCLA.